Hello, good evening, and welcome. It's Teo, and I'm surrounded by a glorious bunch of ladies. So I've got Kate below me at this moment in time. I think I have Lynne Franks over there, and I have Luna in the bottom bottom right-hand corner of your screen, bottom left-hand corner of my screen. And this evening, I am not going to be taking part in this conversation for a personal reason. So I'm going to drop out and I'm going to leave these ladies to talk together. But I just wanted to make sure we were live and everybody was watching. And I can see people coming in thick and fast. So, yeah, we are good to go. So, Luna, I'm going to hand over to you and I'll probably see you at the end of the broadcast.
Fabulous. Thank you. So, Kate, you're going to be taking questions tonight. We'll come to those later, questions from the audience. Mm-hmm. So whilst we're waiting for people to come in, I'd like to introduce you to our fabulous guest for tonight's show. She is the founder of the SEED Network, which is Sustainable Enterprise and Empowerment Dynamics. She's a pioneer of a more feminine approach to business and personal empowerment and has inspired thousands of women to join a movement of sustainable economic independence. A very good friend of mine, Lynne Franks, OBE, in 2012, she was awarded the Order of the British Empire by the Prince of Wales. So, Lynne, a really warm welcome to you. It's so fab to have you on the show.
I've noticed that's twice you said fabulous, but I'm going to completely ignore that.
Thank you. I wasn't going any further with it. You are fabulous.
That's 3 times. Anyway, thank you. It's lovely to be here. I'm a huge fan of you, as you know, of all the work that you do and Theo and the Time of the Sixth Sun. I've been following you and involved a little bit in it since you've been since you started, really, which I don't know, 15, 16 years ago when you started filming the first time.
Very.
I love everything you've done. So I'm so happy to be here.
Bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you. So, Lynne, I probably haven't done you justice in that introduction because your bio is the most impressive bio that I've ever read, I think. So I have to say, if people want to see the extent of your work, I'll say, and I'll say it again at the end, we'll put your website and all your information up there and they can check it out for themselves. But these days, you're consulting, you're writing, you're speaking on societal shifts, is that correct? And women's empowerment and sustainable, peaceful world for all of us.
I guess so. I mean, my background, I suppose, is, well, my background is very interesting because I started my own business at 21. It was a PR business with Catherine Hamnett, the designer who started the slogan T-shirts.
Yep.
We worked on those a lot. I mean, they're hers and I promoted them and that was very exciting to see them still 40 years on. And in the PR world, I was very involved in fashion and entertainment. I created London Fashion Week and I was involved in all sorts of projects like Live Aid and Fashion Aid. I forget myself, actually. And I suddenly see something and think, oh, I did the PR for that. Yeah. So over the years, I worked for most of the main British retailers and designer brands and high street brands. So I got to understand the business world very well. And then through my spiritual practice, I guess, and through even the work I wanted to do, I got more involved with cause-related information and communications and created something called, I've forgotten what it was called now. Anyway, the biggest HIV/AIDS attention and a fundraising initiative, which is still going on, called Fashion Cares, actually. I don't know what it's called. And got involved in all sorts of things from environment, green consumerism, the consumer as a responsible, how do you say, as a responsible consumer. I was trying to think of all the things I have done over the years. And anyway, I sold my business after 20 years and I got involved with the whole area of women's empowerment. I wrote the SEED Handbook. That was 20 years ago. I've got it here. That came out. That was the first book for women, teaching them how to start small businesses anywhere in the world that were based on values and sustainability. So that grew into a whole content of learning in all sorts of languages, most recently in Russian and Kazakh and Pashto, which is Afghani dialect. I mean, it's been used and it's still being used as a real reference for women and empowerment.
It's a fabulous book and widely read.
Yes, yeah, so. And it's been the base of the whole platform and network of SEED. So when you say, what am I doing now? Everything comes under the SEED banner, the seed umbrella. So there's all kinds of initiatives going on, and we'll carry on going. I mean, what's happened in this particular period, I know we're going to talk about that in much more detail, but for me, it's given me this space and time to do the creative development of a lot of the projects that I've been thinking about, and like everybody else, too busy. And now they're just, well, to use the metaphor of the seeds and planting in the garden, they are all just blooming. And it's I'm having personally and creatively a very exciting time.
Fabulous. And you've recently relocated to Somerset, where you're working on creating a women's community-led hub.
I've been here 3 years now. So for the last year and a half, I've got 2 buildings in the heart of a little town called Wincanton. And I have got a hub. It's not only for women, but it's kind of women's led. So we have a cafe, a vegan sustainable cafe, and bedrooms and treatment rooms and big workshop rooms, which is really lovely for me to have my own bricks and mortar, if you like, of the dream. And then I have a store next door, which we've just gone online with, which sells products, sustainable products from small women entrepreneurs, which is all part of my sort of let's all support each other and create a circular economy, which we'll talk about later, I know.
I have to say, I visited you down in Somerset, and I just needed a few days to take some time out. And it is the most fantastic, it's a beautiful place to stay, amazing workshops, the shop, the cafes, really what you've created there is amazing.
Well, it's my dream, really, and it is a well-being hub for women and for men. And people do come here, as you did, pretty exhausted and needing a break. And we look after people. Obviously, we're not open at the moment, but we look after people, and everything here is very eco, and the bedding, and everybody. The response I get is that no one wants to get out of bed in the morning. It's also comfy. But I mean, that's kind of like, this is lovely, and I'm so happy that I've done it. But it's, as I say, the bricks and mortar are much bigger dream and indeed work that I'm doing, which goes everywhere from working and supporting women refugees on a global basis and other women in sort of fairly destitute areas. And the dreams I've got of doing much more on that level with the seed banner to working with women's leadership in the old paradigm corporate world. I pretty much cross over to everything. As you know, I speak at festivals. I was due to speak and do a workshop at Glastonbury this year. So my church, my breadth of church of the different communities that I work with is very wide, and I enjoy it, and I learn so much from all of the different communities that I'm involved with, and I love the idea of bringing all that together and exchanging information and sharing. So from spiritual communities, from festivals, from young people, from wisdom keepers, it just all flows. And that's what I see. It's one of the things that have happened over the last few weeks, is that because we're not out so much, we're communicating and connecting on a much more global basis, as you certainly are.
Yeah.
With all
I'm really enjoying it. I think everyone's enjoying that aspect.
Well, I guess people that are not well are not enjoying it, and people that are the incredible frontline workers and the medical profession are doing a phenomenal job. But I agree with you. I mean, most of the people I know are really enjoying this opportunity to take a step back, to breathe, and to say, I am ready for whatever's coming. Because I think the one thing that you and I both agree on, and I've seen a few of the fantastic interviews you've done here, that everybody else seems to be saying, is we are never going back to how it was. We've got this opportunity now to create a new world. And for someone at my age who's been in this world of change, as a change maker and a thought leader since the 60s, all those different initiatives that I've been involved with, whether it's feminism or new way of eating or how we can live in community, all the things that I've been involved with over the years. I lived in California for a number of years and got very involved over there with new ways of doing things 20 odd years ago. We are ready now. I said this to you earlier today, I feel as if and I think the same for you, and others have been in training all these years for this new conscious future that we can create and manifest between us all. Yeah,
absolutely. And so you're not really creating the dream, you're living the dream.
Well, yes. I mean, I think that's another thing we've talked about before, isn't it? That if we're going to create this new world, if we're going to dream in this new world, we have to be the dream. We have to be the positive energy we want to see in others. We have to be the light that we want to see in others.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of online little messaging. I created a seed week using the 7 archetypes that I work with, which we can talk about a bit later, but the feminine archetypes. Do you want me to say what they are now?
I think it's a perfect time to bring that in.
Okay. So I developed over the last 3 years or so 7 archetypes, which are in all of us. They are feminine archetypes, but they are in men as well as women, of course. And together, if we can get those in alignment ourselves, I've been developing the concept of small groups, pods of 7, who take each archetype. Each one can take the responsibility for one. And I always find there's one that somewhat everybody resonates with at least one as their key archetype. So seed sower, which is the ideas, the creative. Alchemist, which is the producer, the strategist, the magician, the shaman that makes the things happen. The storyteller, which has to start with, how do we tell our own story? With the work that I do with others, it all starts with me. How do I tell my story? How do I turn it into a positive story of growth, not a drama, not a tragedy? There's medicine woman, medicine man, that side of ourselves which looks after our well-being, because we have to start with our own well-being, because we can't help anybody else if we're still stressing out in the old way. We have to start with the sort of food we eat, the supplements we take, the exercise we do. That's the medicine woman and medicine man. But then how do we take that sense of well-being into our community, into our projects, and connecting back with Mother Earth? Then the sky dancer is another archetype. They're not in any special order. The sky dancer is the tantric relationship builder, if you like. It was the sort of temple dancers back in the day, thousands of years ago. So it's the very gracious. Sorry?
I said I know a few of those.
So it's the sort of the gracious connector, but it's about relationships basically. So sky dancer is about, again, relationship with self, that sense of self-love, self-care. That's where we start with all the work that I do. And then it's about relationships with others. In a business sense, it's the networker, let's say, on projects that brings the partnerships in. But it's not the old style of networking. What can you do for me? What can I do for you? It's more a sort of generous, heartfelt relationship side of things. And then there's Space Weaver, which is the artist, the inner artist, and the external. So it's the side of ourselves that creates the inner and exterior environment that is beautiful, colourful, and reflects the world we want to live in. And finally, Wisdom Keeper, which is, of course, certainly an archetype for a lot of the people you've been speaking to. Yeah. Who are within ourselves. It is the aspect of ourselves that does deep reflection and deep listening to ensure that what we're doing, whether it's a business, a project, whatever it may be, is in alignment with our true values, is in alignment with our vision. Yeah. And if it's in a group, then the vision keeper is the wisdom keeper. The wisdom keeper is the vision keeper, which is the aspect of the group that really holds the values in that project. And in a bigger sense, in the community, it's the seniors, it's the wisdom keepers, circle of wisdom keepers we've talked about in your film, or I talked about. So if you put all those together, and they're all on my website, so they can be seen as a little film, then we can get in some harmonious balance, some kind of harmonious balance inside ourselves. So that's where I start. And then we create these groups, these small groups of creating initiatives, creating support group, creating business. And so it goes from me to we, how we take those roles. Yep. And then as those small initiatives develop, all based on sacred geometry, as you know, so it's seed of life, flower of life in a visual sense. And then those spread out, and that becomes us, which is the societal shift. So it's me, we, us, and how we can create change. Start with ourselves, as we said earlier, start with the light in ourselves, and create small groups on a community level, and then create a much bigger, wider connection. So everything's circular, that's how I see the new paradigm anyway. We're going from the linear, hierarchical, crumbling, dysfunctional, power-driven, corrupt society that is everywhere. And as that crumbles, we're creating this new harmonious, feminine, not women, but feminine-based circular system of living, working, economy, and how we're living with ourselves.
Yeah, it's really powerful work. I remember meeting you. I've known you since before that, but I think it was in 2006. You were at the Be the Change conference.
Yes.
Sadhguru was here. And really powerful way to work with women. And of course, you take this into businesses like McDonald's and all these big corporations.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a bit, that experience of being in the...
Yes, I mean, it's interesting going in the big corporations. And actually, I went into McDonald's, I can't even remember, maybe 15 years ago. Yeah. And with the support of the CEO, I persuaded him it would be a good idea to start women's leadership work there. It was very, like many big businesses, very male-driven. The women felt they had to behave like men to get on. So that included everything from sort of business trips where they'd sit in the bar for hours listening to men telling sexist jokes and hating every second of it, but not being able to do anything about it, and so on. And with the blessing, as I said, of the CEO, I went in, started working with small groups of women, senior women, who were, once they wondered what was going on, and they always made jokes about me putting on whale music. I mean, I did go in there full on. I lit the candle, I took the flowers, I put on the lovely relaxing meditation music, got them to turn off their Blackberries, is what they all had in those days. And they were very, very uncomfortable. It took about the third time. They still, some of them who are friends of mine still say, you know, that whale music you put on. But anyway, after the third visit, they got it, and they started relaxing, realizing they were in a safe space and they could share what was going on in their lives, whether it was the menopause or teenage children taking exams, and be open with each other. And from that, they then started supporting the younger women coming up. And that became a very, I mean, there was a lot more to it than that in terms of leadership work, but that became a very big program that went all the way over Europe and still is, and it had a huge effect on the company. But I was also interested, I started getting involved with them in environmental aspects as well, like using the chip oil in the vans and, you know, things that they started doing. I mean, it was very interesting working with such an enormous company and seeing how you can make change in quite a simple way. And I worked with Tesco's also on women's engagement and the different corporates. And that was a real eye-opener for me as well, that sometimes, just sometimes, I do need to change my language. I do need to not freak people out right from the get-go and let them relax and feel safe. And yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting experience. I've worked with banks and all manner of things.
I mean, you are, I hope the audience listening and watching really get that you are the most extraordinary game changer. It's such an honor to have you talking like this. I wanted to ask if you've ever worked in government at all or with politicians.
I did, actually.
That's where you're needed.
I have. I don't know if I've ever told you. So I was PR for the Labour Party years ago. I wasn't working in government. They were in opposition. It was in the days of Neil Kinnock. Yeah. And through some Labour Party women, I got involved, and they said that they thought it would be a good idea if I got involved in that PR side of things. And at that point, the Labour Party was so male, and they had a lovely woman who's passed away now called Jo Richardson, who was Minister for Women, Shadow Minister for Women, but had absolutely no connections. There were no women in the Shadow Cabinet apart from her. That's why they made her the Women's Shadow Minister. And they had never met women's media. They'd never talked to women's press. So I worked with them on youth and women. So there was a project which some people may remember called Red Wedge, where lots of musicians came together and did a tour, Billy Bragg and Jimmy Somerville and others, and I got involved with that, with how to connect with youth. And there was a campaign, Giza a Job, and I got Catherine Hamner and some other designers all to do T-shirts, and we got these students to be modelling them outside Westminster. And then the women's project was huge, where we actually introduced the Shadow Cabinet to the main women's media, and it was an experience for all of them, I think. So talking about women, you know, some of the women's editors started asking me. Robin Cook at the time was Shadow Minister of Health, and they asked him about women's health and breast cancer and what the Labour Party's commitment was to that, and they were sort of standing there like they really didn't know. Things have changed a lot. I mean, this was, I don't even remember how long ago, 30 years ago, but it was a real eye-opener for me, understanding politics and how it works and how dysfunctional it could be. I'm not saying the Labour Party, I'm not saying then, but I stayed involved and, of course, saw that there was huge amount of dysfunction going on in that great big building in Westminster, which for many years I think it had one woman's loo and God knows how many men's. I mean, there was just no kind of connection or opening for women. I remember Glenda Jackson was an MP very early on, and she used to talk about that. You know, there was like no commitment.
I think they should have a total revamp. They should go right through the Houses of Parliament and just give it a total makeover. We need to get a makeover team.
Well, they should probably knock it down, in truth. Maybe get Guy Fawkes back and create something very different. A garden. I think everything should be a garden these days. Yeah, little gazebos in the garden where people can get together and talk in small clusters and come from the heart and stop playing power games. And I mean, it's every government, isn't it? It's all the old-fashioned hierarchy and the whole way of using power to exploit. I mean, it's been very interesting before the pandemic to have seen what's been going on in the world over the last few years with the Me Too and the exposure of the exploitation of power in Hollywood and in business. And it's been a very healthy move, I think, for a shift, a big shift. And that is going to get much, much bigger when we come out of this situation and we move on to this wonderful utopia that we're going to manifest. It's going to be about gender equality and respecting each other's strengths, differences.
So we all talk about sharing a new economy, and we're going to jump onto subjects and go all over the place, Lynne, here. We talk about sharing a new economy and connecting with each other in a new way to create the world that we've dreamt of for years. So for you, what does that look like, Lynne?
It's very community-based. I mean, it's very much that sort of think local, act global, or whether it's the other way around, act global, think local. It's about communities coming together, whether in cities, towns or villages, and doing much more as a community in the old way, in the tribal way. So we're supporting each other. It's cross-generational. And we're seeing it now. I haven't got the paper I wanted to bring, but this was this weekend's Guardian over here. The cover says, "Love thy neighbours." And it's got 4 British streets under lockdown, and how one street's dancing and another street making sure everybody's fed, and another street they're photographing each other. There's a lot of activities which are very interesting have come out in this period where we're supposed to wear masks, lock down, not talk to anybody, and actually it's brought people together tremendously. It's like changing the narrative. What have we got here? Is it that we are all isolated and scared? No. We're all connecting and we're feeling love and we want to help each other. And so in answer to your question, Nikki, it's like, well, it's what can we do at local level that we can then talk to other localities about and other communities and inspire each other. I mean, in a way, we've done that for years in the UK. If you think about the Transition Town movement, which has inspired so many, starting here in Devon, not far from me.
Was it Rod? Who started that? Rod?
There was 3 of them, I think. Yeah. But anyway, yes, come back to me. But anyway, they started off with renewable energy. How can they make community energy? And near where you are in Sussex, in Lewis, they also have done that community energy. In fact, in Forest Row, there is also community energy. How we can create renewable energy, how we can grow our vegetables together, how we can look after each other, shared well, they used to be when we used to use cars, shared cars. There's lots of things that have come out of the UK.
Carbon footprint, basically.
Yes, absolutely. And work as a community, as a loving community. And the other big initiative that came out of the UK a few years later was Incredible Edibles. I'm thinking of Incredible Edibles, which you may know came up from up north. Was 2 women went up to a pub one night and asked people to join them who wanted to talk about turning their town into a garden of vegetables that everybody had access to. And that became incredibly influential after her TED. One of them did a TED talk, didn't she? And that's been copied all over the world. There's other fantastic initiatives that I think the UK, I mean, lots of good things happen in lots of countries, but in an ironic way, the UK sort of stuck in its old empire. Thank you. I got my OBE, but stuck in its old empire way of doing things, class system and all the rest, is at the same time at grassroots been the initiative for huge change that have been happening that no one in power has noticed that has really had a huge world influence.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in this current time, it's such an opportunity, isn't it, to rewrite the narrative?
Yeah.
So is it crisis or is it opportunity? You know, it's, I had a lovely person write to me today saying, you know, we all understand now exactly how a virus travels, and you start with one person, it goes to two, and it multiplies. And we've seen how quickly fear and virus can spread globally. But what if you turn that into love and abundance and, you know, feeling good, and send that out around the world? How quickly you can send it. So I just think it's an extraordinary time.
It's an extraordinary time, and I think that's exactly what's happened. I think that the amount of people who have come to a place of wanting to live in love from their hearts, coming out of their heads into their hearts, who want to create a new positive world, it has been like wildfire, because somehow this space has given people the confidence. I think a lot of it, honestly, is to do with the way the communities have behaved, you know, communities, neighborhoods, where people are helping each other, the fantastic work that's being done by, in this country, the NHS and all the frontline health workers all around the world, and people supporting that and really honoring them for that. And just sort of seeing the love. I mean, this guy, this Captain Tom story from England, I don't know if everybody overseas knows it, but this story of this man, 99, who just turned 100, who said he would walk around his garden. Can't remember how, just walk around his garden. He was going to raise £1,000 and give it to the health workers. I think what's he raised now? 30 million? And it's caught the imagination and the heart of so many people in this country. And money is poured in because he has become, I think he's become a symbol of the heart of the UK. And I think his record's #1 that he's made with Michael Ball. They've made some kind of music that he's singing on. I can't remember. There's a choir, Michael Ball and Captain Tom. They're all involved.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that.
His telegram from the Queen. I think his birthday was like in the last couple of days. I think it was Sunday. I heard something on the radio. So there's this very positive feeling that's going out there. And the funny thing is, I've always been a news junkie, and I've always watched the news. I turn on BBC Radio first thing in the morning on Radio 4, and I watch Channel 4 News, and I read papers right across. I stopped it all. I turned on the news last night, tried to watch it for about 5 minutes, and I just couldn't. I had to turn it off. And I just don't want to hear the same old mumble that's coming out, empty words, like politicians who have no idea what they're doing, completely lost. Change the story daily.
I just think journalists must feel so despondent, you know, what when they first became journalists, what that meant to them to report the news, and the place they're in now. I feel really sorry for them, actually. Well, not that sorry for them.
No, don't feel sorry for them. I mean, the media outlets and the big media companies, they're all in bed with each other, with the large corporations, the pharmaceutical industry, you know, the whole the political system. Everybody's in bed with each other on that level. And we were just supposed to be well-behaved little boys and girls, washing our hands and singing happy birthday and doing what we were told. So on the whole, people have been well-behaved because it suited us, I think. I mean, it has suited us to stop driving, to stop flying. I mean, clearly there's lots of small businesses that are having a hard time. I had businesses, as we discussed earlier. I had some high street businesses. But what's going on, according to what I can see, is that entrepreneurs are creative. They'd have to be creative to be entrepreneurs in the first place. And certainly in my town, people have been working very hard from the beginning, delivering food. We've got a vegetable shop that's open 7 days a week that delivers. We've got other cafes that are now doing takeaway and pubs that are doing takeaway and delivering. And there's a real positive feeling of business here. And on another level, I mean, we as a store wanted to go online for the last year. We've had the time to do it. So we now have taken the Seed Store online, where we're supporting entrepreneurs. And I know a lot of people who have adapted, women particularly, who have adapted to this whole new online way of doing. I taught my first online retreat last weekend for 3 days. It was fantastic, and it was possible to create this intimacy as we're doing now, really.
Yeah, I just want to bring Kate into this, because Kate is an amazing, amazing woman in our village, and she has organised our whole community of how Kate, why don't you just explain very quickly, because
I'll be very quick. I like many of us, we're very community minded here, and it was quite clear that the parish council needed help, and I work with them on trying to get our tip back into the community too, so that we all have lots of connections. And we could see that the burden was falling onto a few people, and of course, how do we make sure we spread that so that everyone gets everything they need? And so we set up some live Google documents. We've got volunteers, we've got call receivers, and we've got befriending services, of which you are part of too, Nikki. And the idea being is that you can go onto a live Google document, you put your request, nobody has to administrate it, we administrate it behind the scenes, but they just put on the request, and then all of the volunteers know where to go. They look at it, if it's something they can do, they'll do it. And it's amazing, they just keep flying out. People want to do something. So it's just empowering people and giving them, they're saying, yeah, I'd really like to help, I'd really like to do this. So we've created amongst us this opportunity. It's wonderful. Great team spirit.
Well done, you.
Well done. I mean, that's the interesting thing. It's giving, as you say, it's empowering for the people that are giving. I mean, one of the things we've done here, because there's a lot of that going on here as well, of course, as there is in every community, but we thought it would be nice to brighten up our little square outside where I am. So a number of people, including Tamsin, who works with me, and other women in the town, and it's growing, are knitting all these kind of strange, extraordinary shapes, or crocheting flowers, and they're putting them on the bollards outside my front door. So we've now got, the bollards have got knitted hats on and snakes on them, and it's brought colour into the town, and it's lovely. And I'm thinking now about arranging a sing-song. I haven't actually got it into action yet, but I think the next thing here is we need a Saturday sing-song, and we can get a couple of our local musicians, and we can stand around at the required distance and sing some old Beatles songs. So, and that's another thing about the online concerts.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful music. The DJs, it is incredible. I keep getting sent all these live DJ sets from all sorts of people, which are great fun. And obviously 5 Rhythms Dance or Open Floor, Sarah Davis, who is the 5 Rhythms Open Floor teacher in Forest Row, where you are, where I used to live, is online every Friday morning. And and I've been going in because I've missed doing Sarah's class since I moved away. She's had 90, 100 people on from all over the world dancing with her. We're completely changing the way we're living, yoga classes, qigong, everything. So how are we going to let go of that? We're not going to let go of that. We are going to change the way we're living in every way, in terms of our personal values, believing in them and saying, I can make this happen. I can contribute. I can be part of my community. I can smile and say hello to my neighbours. Every time I go out for my daily walk with the dog, big smiles from everybody I meet, whatever age, children, everybody is all so friendly, everyone. I don't remember that from before. People are much more open. And that's the other irony, is that this time we're supposed to be, we're told about the masks. It's like everyone's taken their masks off. And, so the friendship.
Literally,
the friendship that I'm feeling and receiving and giving, and it goes back to what you said. It's about, Nikki, it's about the light that we put out. We get it back. So everybody is feeling so friendly. I mean, it's going to be interesting. We've got a week of rain coming up, so it'll be interesting. Yeah. We're quite so smiley as we walk around in the rain, but the bees, the blue sky, the insects, the bird song.
I mean, there's been something interesting, with so many protests around the world, whether it's fracking or so many things, too many things to mention. But
Extinction Rebellion.
I just wanted to say Extinction Rebellion, but actually the real proof of the pudding, you can protest as much as you want, and Extinction Rebellion is fantastic, and with the work they do. But nature, she's just shown us how quickly the earth can recover. We just get out of the way.
It's been an amazing 4 weeks weather-wise, and just watching, I mean, seeds are what I'm all about. I'm not the greatest gardener in the world, but I love being surrounded by them and watching everybody going into their gardens or even their window boxes, planting their seeds, growing their vegetables. I started talking about Incredible Edibles before, and how that's got towns and cities all over the world growing their own vegetables in communities. Well, that's another thing we're doing here, and I'm sure you're doing it there, is there people are being given seeds and seedlings by others, and everyone's now growing their own vegetables. The children are learning how to grow their own vegetables. I mean, Forest Row, where you are, is of course a Steiner town, but a lot of people, this is very new. Children have not been, even where I live, it's a farming community, or was, but children have let go of their connection with the land, and they're refinding it.
I just had a thought there as you were talking. I was thinking, wouldn't it be a great message to put out to everybody? You can start here and you can start putting it out. Is that every time you plant a seed or a tree or whatever it is, but seeds particularly, you really are planting a seed. So put an intention with that seed that you plant, or a wish for this new world that we are trying to dream into being. And so on that point, Utopia, it sounds beautiful. I'm right there with you, honey. And I want to live in that world. However, there is a voice that whispers, and it says, you know, how do you begin to even start creating that on a practical level? We talked a little bit about it before.
Yes.
Because it sounds like we're living in a bubble away from the reality that is our planet now, i.e. we've got a foot in the 3D and a foot in our sort of spiritual realm. On a practical level, how does Utopia work?
I think it's already started. I really do. And I think it's about conversations like this, where we're all connecting with other like-minded beings all around the world and sharing information about what we can do. I mean, I was on a panel yesterday with a group of people. There were the people running it were in Ibiza. There was a girl in Paris who's creating biospheres for Mars and for this world. There was a guy who makes music from plants in LA, young guy, and there was a futurist from Holland. I can't remember who else was on it. There are people coming in from everywhere, and and I'm sure this is one would be interesting to see the questions tonight. This is the same. It's bringing it all together the way you have, and how we can learn from each other. But in answer to your question, how can we start it? We've started it, and it will be women's led, or I do believe, from communities in very small groups who are creating social purpose businesses. It will be a new economy where we will exchange, we will barter. We will barter if we want to, or not if we need to, if we want to, we'll do bartering, we'll do shares. There will be a return, I believe, to community money. It's all the stuff I've written about in Seed for 20 years, and I know it's coming. We'll be exchanging our services, exchanging our products to help each other and create income, because we still live in a world that will depend on income and transactions, but that will also shift. And we will be, I mean, we've seen from, I talked about Uncle Tom, but we've seen the generosity with people. And I think what I'm doing with Seed for a start is, as we create this circular economy where women are buying from each other, supporting each other, bartering with each other, there will be seeds that will be then given in different ways, microcredit, banking, a new banking to women like the refugee women who needs help and support with all kinds of initiatives. I mean, one of the things I want to do is start, and I've started the conversation, work with rural women, particularly in countries like Iraq and Syria, and work with the crafts. I mean, this is also something I've been involved with and aware of for 30 years. I was working with UNESCO on knitwear, hand knitwear in post-war Bosnia all that time ago with Seed. 20 years ago that was. But it's how can we, really be supporting each other in that kind of shared economy. But I'm also looking at the technology of not cryptocurrency, which is too flexible.
Blockchain.
Sorry?
Blockchain.
Blockchain. I'm glad you said that, because the word just came out of my head. You saw me go blank. Blockchain technology, which is very feminine based, and it's about transparency. It's about using science, using technology in a smart way for exchange transactions. It doesn't have to be currency based. It could be, I'll buy these 50 baskets from you, and in turn I'm getting sent this food that you need over there, or whatever it is you need, or these seeds that you need to plant. It goes back to the kind of the oldest way and the most modern technology, and how we fuse those together. So we can start these initiatives now. There's been microcredit agencies working in destitute countries for years that I've been working with. So how can we take that into different kinds of transactions? So my whole theory is that we don't go and try and compete and go to war with the people that think they're governing us. We actually just let them continue creating this destruction that they're on of their own system, and create a circular system, circular way of connecting, circular way of doing business, and we just carry on doing it, and not, we just do it. We don't have to ask permission. We don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
We're not, we're just doing it.
Yeah. It's so inspiring, Lynne. I mean, I'm a great believer that women lie at the heart of this dichotomy. And what was I going to say? Just totally went out of my head.
Well, it's not a gender thing only. Of course,
no.
We were saying earlier, there's wonderful men out there that we're working with.
Yeah. I was going to say about how you inspire and empower. A lot of your work is about empowering a lot of women around the world.
Well, it's sad to say that women generally still have a lack of self-confidence and self-esteem. And that is a fact of based on 2,000 years of male patriarchy, the language that's used and the images that are used. It's just the way it is. And we have to change that. And the way I see it changing is by us coming together in these groups, hearing each other's stories and supporting each other. And looking after our well-being. I worked with Lucinda Drayton of Bliss, a wonderful singer from Bliss at the weekend, who came in as part of my retreat. But she's also a counsellor with a method called Reach. And she's said quite rightly, all mind, body, spirit, how we bring that together. We can only start thinking about self-esteem when we start with self-care. So that goes back to the well-being, looking after ourselves in a healthy way, which will make us live a kind of fuller life, will be the first stage of self-esteem, self-love. And then from self-love, we go to group love, and then we can put it out there. And it is tied in with what Kate was talking about, with empowering people by helping others. We know that one of the best ways to feel good is by service, but as long as it's unconditional, egoless service, non-hierarchical. And that's why I've been the leadership system I work with is everybody's a leader. That's why it's circular. And we're all coming from a place of using the best of our gifts, coming from our hearts, and wanting to be part of this new system. And I was very close, as you know, and still am, with the Brahma Kumaris for many years. The only women's-led spiritual organisation in the world, and wonderful Daddy Janki, who passed away a few weeks ago, 104, the most amazing woman I was close with. And she always talked about incognito leadership. Actually, they are quite hierarchical in their own way, but at the same time, because she was the leader of it, but she always taught me about incognito leadership. Come from the grassroots, support each other, and hold from the bottom up, not tell from the top down. So it's such a different way of looking and thinking at things. So it's got to be by example. If we want to create this new world, this new way of doing things, we do it by example. We create our groups of 7, and we take these roles. It doesn't have to be my power of 7, it doesn't have to be a group of 7, but I've found out that definitely works. And as well as all being the storyteller, all being the medicine woman, all of us being the seed sower, there are certain aspects and certain of our gifts when we're in group that can take those roles and really support the others in our area of expertise, let's say, or areas of creative gifts, what we do. So anyway, I can't even remember the question now, but I think it was about women and self-esteem. I think it's like, how do we support us? Yeah. And we have to move. Women have now to move. It's not that men are holding us back. We can't say that. It's we have to move together into a place of strength and power.
Yeah.
That's not taking over from men. That's working alongside men.
Yeah.
And not doing it by becoming men, which is what we see in the sort of classic governmental, large organizational way.
Which is what Desmond Tutu said. I have to share this when we interviewed him, and I did include this piece in the film. He talked about 2 things. He talked about, forgiveness and peace. He said everyone wants to live in peace. There's no one who doesn't want to, and it's the best kind of living happens when there is peace. But he also then started to speak about women, and he said, I have a secret longing, and that is for women all over the world, women to take over and tell the men, we gave you all this time and you've made a mess of things. This is the Archbishop telling me this. He said, you've made a mess of things and now we're taking over. And he said he would like it to be women who aren't trying to be like men, but women who are feminine, women who remember that they are life nurturers, and he's absolutely certain that we would see a different world order.
Well, you probably know the quote the Dalai Lama has also said some years ago about women of the West. The world will change when women of the West move into their leadership role, or when they take over. It's the women of the West that will be saving this world. And there's even UN research that shows that around about now, if the majority of the young girls of 11 are in education, we will readdress the balance of this world. Because right now, and up till now, girls of 11, majority of the girls of 11 in many countries and societies all over the world are not getting an education. You know, they're out there getting the water for the family at the age of 5. We see the pictures, or in the fields. So this whole aspect of education for the girl child is very, very important. But a new kind of education, it's like a new kind of education, a new kind of agriculture, a new kind of business. This thing about I've seen it in my own grandchildren, kids at schools, before they were given all this freedom, were just being made to study. The pressure on teenagers has been colossal in terms of passing exams and making it to university, where they then incur these huge debts, and then they can't even get jobs anyway. The education system is absolutely rubbish, apart from the Steiner schools.
No longer fit for purpose.
No longer fit for purpose. And so the fact that suddenly, after all this intense pressure on these kids to just study and pass these exams, and then suddenly they're given this complete freedom. Oh, you're going to get your O-levels and your A-levels. You don't even have to study. No, you don't have to study. You don't have to take exams. We'll just judge on your behaviour. It's like, how's that for young people? Suddenly, okay. They should never have been under that pressure. So they're not going to go back to that either, right? And I think that, I left school at 16, as did my daughter. My daughter's written a book, and you. The educational system we have in the modern world is not one that really teaches us life skills or values. It's not values based. It's just repetition based. So the new kind of education, a new kind of agriculture, where make everybody in the community goes back to the land and shares the produce. I did write this thing at some point. I'd love to read a little bit about the way I wrote it 15 years ago. I won't read all of it, but can I read a little bit of it?
Yes, please do. Absolutely. And then maybe we'll go for a couple of questions.
Yes. Okay. All right, I'm going to read a little bit of it. So as women, it was from a book I wrote called Grow, and I forgot I'd written it, and I was writing something the other day, and I thought, this sounds familiar. And it was actually something I'd written 15 years ago, and I'll read it out of the book. As women, we're traditionally the caretakers of our culture. Our responsibility is to understand and somehow make sure that the changes that are happening in our world preserve the basic humanity in us all. By connecting with the principles of the sacred feminine, such as those found in ancient patriarchal civilizations, a more nurturing society can evolve, one that abhors violence, advocates such values as justice, compassion, and love, and raises its children to receive their full potential as human beings. I'll just read another paragraph out of this, if I may.
Yeah, go for it. It's fantastic.
If we're talking about getting rid of the old, outdated patriarchal ways of running the world, it's essential to present a pragmatic vision of what we want to replace it with. We need an overall blueprint of what a new world based on the principles of the sacred feminine would look like and how it would work. The primary foundation for such a world is cooperation. First and foremost is cooperation between male and female. As women, we know that the best and most efficient ways to get things done is to work together, and that means living and working with men in harmonious coexistence, valuing the perspective and strengths of both sexes and creating a higher quality of life for all. It must also be a world of cooperation between business and community, human beings and the planet, national governments and non-governmental organizations, young and old, spirituality and science, and our inner and outer selves. And there is more, and I like to find
words. No, go ahead, keep
because I just think it's so appropriate and relevant to today.
Yeah.
The opportunity to create this world does exist now. It does exist now, that's the point. Maybe 15 years ago it didn't. It is possible to create a society where we can bring people together and heal our families, our communities, and our world. To do so would take a new breed of leaders, ones who aren't tied to the old ways of doing things. Rather than money or power, these leaders must have spiritual values to guide them. And since spiritual values are at our core, it is vitally important for women to step up and take the lead in this transformation of society. A cooperative society is an organic, evolutionary step away from the world we presently live in. When the power of national governments diminish, that power will naturally transfer into specific small and large networks which transcend national boundaries and link with one another. Consequently, a new economic order could be created that truly rewards efforts, including the caring of others. Distribution of land and natural resources would be fairly shared amongst the people who live on it, and the need to conquer and repress others in the name of power would not be a consideration. Cooperative ways of working together, whether in agriculture or small enterprise networks, which encourage individual creativity instead of exploiting workers, would develop gradually as this new feminine paradigm took hold. And in a cooperative society based on a feminine perspective, training in technology skills would be open for all. An education in understanding and respecting the differences between cultures and beliefs of others would become an intrinsic element of society. Traditional and holistic medicine would integrate, creating a new science which treats and cures diseases based in part on sensible nutrition, exercise, and meditation. Our senior citizens would be revered and respected, keeping our history, both personal and societal, alive. Men and women would create new kinds of relationships, sexual and platonic, based on mutual respect and love, rather than selfish needs and society's expectations. We would have freedom of choice in how we wish to live in every aspect of our lives. Yes, it is a somewhat utopian vision, but we must believe that it is also possible to achieve it. Our personal responsibility in making all this come about is to bring ourselves into the same sort of harmonious balance we wish to see the world in. By finding a state of peace within us, where we stay calm and balanced, we can project a sense of love and creativity to those we engage with. Through our feminine principles, we can achieve a natural state of being that is connected with others. It is then up to us to live within our own cooperative world. Only when we achieve this personally can we begin to create a true feminine future.
Just show us the book. So everyone, this is the book, Grow.
Yes, I still have some Grow, and it's all about, Grow is an acronym for Gorgeous Real Original Women at the time, but it's all about creating the future. And little did I think when I wrote this, it came out in 2004, that we would be exactly at this point now, when we are ready to create this new world. Oh, I feel like crying myself.
Yeah, me too. It's very emotional. It's very, very inspiring, and you know, we're asking a lot of women in the world to start standing up. It is the time to step up now. Step up and be seen and be heard. Yeah, very good. And to listen. I mean, women also know that real communication, we start with the listening. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So this solidarity of women all over the planet, I've just got a couple more questions. You know, we're all grandmothers, mothers, daughters, sisters, aunties, wives of, you know, of where a lot of the problems have been stemming from. I hate to say it, I don't know how to say it any other way. So I've always had this vision of women. It really has been a vision of women in white. I shared it with you earlier, walking the streets in every country, all throughout the world, in solidarity with each other to make this change happen. So, well, I said to you earlier, the Brahma Kumaris always wear white, but I had a vision many years ago where I was in a room with lots of people wearing white, before I knew the Brahma Kumaris actually, but women and men, but there was this because we're all souls. You know, we talk about women and men, and it's the conditioning that society has put on us. But we are all souls, and of course, as long as we always come back to that, and the sacred feminine and masculine in all of us, whatever our gender is, and the balance of that, then we can make this world happen. I truly believe. Kate, do you have a vision?
Yeah, I do. And the longer this has been going on, the less ideological it feels. Because much like Lynne and yourself, Nikki, I feel exactly and have done. And what's been amazing is, if I can bring in all of these incredible people that are watching here,
Okay.
if it's all right, just because what is really important is, first of all, there's a huge amount of gratitude to you, Lynne. Everyone is resonating, everyone is absolutely in agreement and bringing the same words before you say them, and it's been wonderful to see that. There's not been that many questions, interestingly. I think they've been sitting and listening to you and hearing. And I think that certainly where I come from and the incredible women that I'm surrounded by in this village, is that there is this sense of it's our time, and it's not about celebrating that in some kind of raw way. It's like, we're ready, and that you talked about that, we are ready. And I think many of us who have driven this path, whatever this journey has been, and however we've created our lives and whatever we've been pulled towards, it almost feels like we've been waiting and now we're here. And what's really important is we don't miss this opportunity, because it's so exciting. Not to negate anything that's going on in this world, because of course we all feel for everyone, but it does feel that somehow we've been given this chance to make a big difference. And everyone is saying the same thing here. It's okay to be seen, from Monica Prizzi, for instance. They're talking about, they're getting goosebumps listening to you. We need to teach our children, this is from Candice Dana, to live a value-based life as opposed to a commercial-based life, which is resonating with exactly what you're saying. Self-care first, and they're all agreeing and saying, without a doubt, there is people who are saying collaboration and partnership to achieve our goal. Well, that's how women work. It's how, when we rear our children, we work within that network. It comes naturally to us. And of course, when we step in, like you say, into that corporate world, suddenly we have to behave in a different way. I don't think that's true anymore. I think we're able to see role models, these incredible female leaders in our world, who are just doing things a little bit differently and just having a different result and making people feel probably a little more comfortable and calmer. And that's certainly been something that we've seen. So,
hey, can I just bring in something on that? I was talking to Nikki about this earlier. There was, again, a story in The Guardian on Saturday about the women leaders, the women country leaders that we have right now, and how they are doing a much better job because they are more empathetic with what's going on for the citizens of their country. So, of course, a lot of talk about the wonderful woman whose name escapes me in New Zealand, how all over the world there are these young women, particularly in Scandinavia, in Finland, in Iceland, in Norway. They've got women leaders, and that there was a sort of basically comparison to how they were leading, and it was so much more from a place of heart and empathy. And Angela Merkel in Germany, who they were ready to get rid of, has suddenly become readopted as everybody's favourite mother, because there's that different energy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think it's
I think it's really valid, and you're absolutely right. And it's not to say that there aren't men doing great things too. And listen, I love men too. It's just we are in now that time where we are ready to go hand in hand with them and show them, lead them in a different way. And I think there are many men waiting for that too, because they have that divine feminine within them that they wish to share. So it's not about we're better. We've gone beyond that now. It's about we're in this together. So it's wonderful. So sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's time for an inner climate change. We're talking about the outer climate change, but everything as above, so below, as within, so without. We've got to look at the inner climate change. And Damas, who we interviewed 10 days ago, whatever, the entity channeled by Jeffrey Hoppy, and he was saying the same thing. He said, you've got till August or whenever, guys. This is your time, your opportunity to do the work. It's now.
Yeah, I heard that interview, and I thought it was very impressive. And I remembered that very thing. He said, don't do anything right now, just wait till August. And I thought, I don't know, I've got a lot going on, but I feel very different about it. I feel, and as I talk to others and do the teaching I do, it's like, it's okay to be doing things, planting the seeds, preparing the ground. But we don't have to do it with that sort of tension and that pressure and give ourselves these deadlines that we can't meet and then beat ourselves up. It's a flow. It's a breathing, relaxed flow, and we can be more creative, much more creative.
Any questions, Kate, my darling, there from...
Yeah, we have had a few. There's a lady called Victoria Clark who earlier talked about, when you talked about cyclical economies, she said, this resonates so deeply. I feel like I've been in training for this time, and I'm optimistic and even excited that we're really getting into the contradictions of birthing the new paradigm. I'm interested in learning more about circular economy. I've just leaned into offering all I do as gift economy. I am exploring this whole concept. As a result, I'm feeling very abundant. I just thought it was very pertinent to what you were saying and where we're moving towards.
And any questions for Lynne?
Well, can I come back on even that? It's not a question, but on the word abundant, because I think it's very easy in the old paradigm to think abundant is all about the money in the bank. And of course, as we know, abundance is about every aspect of life. You know, abundance of our well-being, abundance about the love in our life.
Yeah,
and that's far more important. The abundance with where we live, and we can create that abundance in every area of our life, which is part of the Seed Manifesto. So I was interested to see it coming up here. It's redefining the word success to the word abundance. We have enough for all. Sorry, carry on, Kate.
Yeah, we have a lady called Joss Angel, Enlightened Empowerment, she's called for all. Our question is, how do we get people to remove their addiction to status?
That's
addiction to status.
Oh, that's a big one.
I don't know, because I don't know what she means by status, but I have been noticing that the very unhealthy celebrity culture that we have created, and which probably I was part of creating in a way back in the old days, has changed a lot. And, you know, some people have come out of it quite well, some of the performers that are, you know, doing things, and some of them have not. I mean, Madonna really screwed her reputation up in that silly bath picture she posted. So what is status? Status to me is all about
I am.
Well, it's I am, but it's also about what we have. You know, does status really mean you've got to have the big car, the private yacht, you know, the private island, all those things that are very much on the material side of status? Because I think that has shifted a lot. For me, it has. And I think that also status, well, it's redefining what does that mean. And consumerism, the whole constant buying that we all do, that I've done over the years, I've realized that that's not really the question, but it's that status, but, you know, being seen in the right designer frock with the right shoes, the right bag. Not that I've ever been that obsessed on that level, but when you get designers like Vivienne Westwood saying, don't buy, you know, think about what you're doing, we're going to be consuming in a very different way, I think. And I personally hope that any status that's to do with wearing certain labels completely disappears. It's ridiculous. And I hope, you know, we were getting so much caught in this influencer culture, influencer, celebrity nonsense. And I think that, you know, that will change. People will be seen as real people now. They've let us into their living rooms. We can see how they live now. You know, and I think the reality for all, you know, bringing everybody down. It's a leveler. That's the thing. That's the word.
The leveler. Good word.
What this pandemic has been, it's been a leveler. Anybody can, they say. I mean, I don't know anybody that high profile seems to be ill, but you know, it's a leveler on all sorts of different ways.
And I think what this has also brought, just to very quickly jump in there, is this re-evaluation that's going to take place. So people who suddenly, in a time of crisis, we see who is really important: the porters, the cleaners in the hospital, as well as very obviously doctors, nurses, carers, but also the people who stack shelves in supermarkets to make sure we can go and shop the next day. There's going to be a re-evaluation of who's important in this world.
Completely.
Yeah, as well as people re-evaluating their lives. Do I have to spend all that money on petrol and sit for 4 hours a day in traffic to work from an office? I think a lot of people start to work from home.
That will never go back to how it is.
Yeah.
No one will want to go back to that. And the big companies as well. I mean, the big companies who are spending all that money on buildings and running those offices. I mean, that was starting to happen, but that's going to change. People are not going to go back into working in an office every day. They're just not. No. That's just one of the huge shifts we're going to see.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your view, Lynne, on universal income? So many people in this world just seem so fragile and vulnerable in a way that they can't quite cope with the harshness of the world. What's your view on universal income?
What do you mean by universal income? I don't know.
Well, a universal income for people, a set amount. Is universal income is sort of like
it's universal credit. You mean?
I know, yes.
Spain,
You mean benefits?
No, they actually give a certain amount of money to everybody in their country. And Spain have just started doing this a few weeks ago, and they're going to carry on with that. And the idea being is that everybody gets something, and it's a leveler. If you
oh, that's okay. I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
I know Costa Rica does it, don't they? And Cuba. I think Cuba's story is very, very interesting. I mean, I think yes, but it's still based on old style currency. That's the thing, and that's where I think we're going to see the shift. Is like. As long as it's based on money, and as we know, this money is being reprinted and it's meaningless in a way, there will be a huge shift, and that's going to be part of the shift on the economy. It's not going to be about making sure everybody's got 10 quid in their purse. It's going to be making sure that every community is growing their own vegetables and people can eat, and they've got a roof over their head, and they've got heating when they need it. It's going to be a whole new economy with all that taken into consideration. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take a while, but that's the leveler of part of it is.
Yeah, I like that word, leveler. So like Michael Tellinger said in the film, he talks a lot about Ubuntu.
Well, I always quote Michael Tellinger. I think the Ubuntu project is fantastic. And
that's on the show.
That's what I see, because he talks about towns of 6,000 can change the world. And the town I live in, Wincanton, is just under 6,000, and I know that the whole principle he talks about, which is that if everyone in the town does 3 hours volunteering a month, we can create our own economy. And a lot of what I think and talk about is based on the same story that he tells. I think the Ubuntu concept is absolutely brilliant.
Well, 3 hours a week for each of us is nothing.
It's 3 hours a month, actually, isn't it?
So even if it was a week, that blew me away. But say it was three, yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it's 3 hours a month. But anyway, it's extraordinary. And
with 6,000 people, that is 18,000 hours of man time. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Man, woman, and children. So you know, that's when we can grow our vegetables, and we can do things together which are enjoyable. It doesn't have to be hardship volunteerism. You know, it's
so exciting.
It's very exciting. So I think the whole Ubuntu concept is part of this whole new economy. So when you talk about universal benefits or whatever it is, it's much more about volunteerism, growing our own products. And I mean, if we look at the work of Rudolf Steiner, there was so much wisdom in all the teachings from agriculture, education, the economy, every aspect of those days. And we look at the science of Nikola Tesla. I don't know if I've said this already tonight, but I mean, it's just there's so much out there that is available for us, and that's abundance. You know, is looking at Tesla's whole concept was that there was a different kind of power, electricity power, which he wanted to just give away. So of course the big companies destroyed him and destroyed his teachings. And
it will be such a relief to stop the stranglehold also of the medical pharmaceutical
talk about that.
World over. I mean, it's a subject on its own, and we're quite careful as to which, you know, things we bring up and we discuss, because it gets quite polarized and a bit crazy at times. And it is important to focus on the things in the world that we really know are against, you know, the highest of human values and against universal law. But at the same time, it's important to know about them and be conscious about them.
Well, in my piece that I just read, it's bringing together a new medicine, which is that it's the best of modern medicine with the oldest traditions of herbs and natural ways of living, which is so much more important.
So that's what to focus on and what to dream on. But meanwhile, we have in this world, and this world, I guess it is starting to unravel right before our very eyes. We are all reading the story.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting what's been happening here with the hospitals being so empty, because the people with serious illnesses such as cancer or heart attacks or whatever were not going in for treatment. I don't think they were allowed to till today. They just announced they could go back in again. And so, I mean, our local main hospital in our local town is virtually empty. These Nightingale PR hospitals that have been open for the government completely sitting there empty. So people with illnesses have had to start looking at alternative ways of staying healthy. And that's not a bad thing, you know, not reliant on constant pills and chemicals to keep them healthy. If we can get the balance right of the best of the old and the best of the new and bring that together. So it's just ironic that that's another thing that has been a sort of unspoken but quite clear result of what's going on is people are not assuming that every time they get sick, they've got to rush into hospital and have another dose of whatever chemicals get thrown down their bodies given to them.
There are many things in the last decade, and especially now, that we're just not prepared to tolerate anymore. It's not acceptable. Guys, it's not okay. It's not okay to abuse children. It's not okay to give vaccinations with all sorts of crap in it. We all know that.
Yes, I mean, the whole vaccination thing is going to come up very big, clearly, because, you know, we are not necessarily going to want to have a vaccination. And we haven't got to those stages yet. Are we going to be allowed out if we're not vaccinated? But the thing in America that every newborn baby automatically got vaccinated, I didn't even know that till quite recently. It's absolutely
yes, I heard Dr. Buttar, and he said something very interesting. He said, you know, on the first day, literally a week of children being born, they have sort of vaccinated with all this rubbish.
I had no idea.
When the immune system doesn't kick in until 6 months, have an ability to kick in.
A newborn baby having an injection. I had no idea. It's just horrific. Absolutely horrific. So this is another thing that's come out, this awareness and this knowledge that we're all starting to understand what's been going on, which we weren't even aware of, and what we can do with this knowledge.
I believe it's important to know the truth. I do, because we stand not for that. You know, I mean for truth, but not for what's going on. I think No More, Not in My Name was a very powerful placard, wasn't it, back in the day against the war?
Yes, no, I completely agree. And the whole idea of wars, I mean, people killing people for what? What's the point of all that about? Destruction, killing your neighbours. I mean, I think, again, a lot of this is kind of coming up and like, no, not in my name. Yeah. Why would America feel it has to go into these countries to save them by blasting the countries out? There is so much that's been going on over, let's say, the last 100 years, which goes on much further back than that. And it's like we're beginning to know about these things now, and we're saying no more.
Yeah, people have been posting on our Facebook page for the film and saying that they're uncovering that the Native Americans are not being included in the polls for COVID-19. They're described as other. They are other beings. It's a bit like aboriginals. And yet they are the highest sufferers of COVID right now, right across all the states. It's disgusting. It's not appropriate for this time we are living in. It's important we stand up and say no, but we focus and we give the antidote, the medicine for things, I think.
Yes, we really do explore the natural medicines and the herbs. I mean, you think 500 years ago, the witches, so-called, who were all killed, they were the herbalists, they were the midwives, they were the wise women and wise men. And we need to be back now. I mean, it's amazing how many women come into my seed community who are using the flowers and the herbs to make medicines and flower essences, and consider ourselves, including me, you know, that's why I've ended up in Somerset. I know it, but I felt it in Sussex too, connecting back with the land in the way that is in the same way that the midwives and the herbalists and the so-called witches, and I take that, you know, we're using rituals again. We are connecting with Mother Nature.
These rituals are important. I used to go out with my sacred sisters, and we'd go out at 3 a.m. on a full moon, and we would drag our silk white scarves through the dew, through the long glasses, and be wringing it out, and we'd make our moon potions, you know.
I completely agree. Ceremony and rituals are a very, very important part of human beings. Very important. And we've lost track of that, many people have. I mean, just taking children through the different passages, or human beings, I mean, the young girls, when they reach menstruation, I remember going to stay in Findhorn many years ago, and young girls reach their menstruation, and they would be celebrated by the women and men of the community and gifted. In fact, my daughter's done it with my own granddaughters. It's just beautiful, and it's the way it should be. All passages of life, and menopause, celebrate menopause.
Yeah.
As we move into our wisdom.
It's a pause from men. I've never realised that before.
No, not necessarily. It wasn't in my case, but anyway, it's interesting. But it is that very important passage of time when we're moving into our wisdom keeper phase, and we should be honouring ourselves. And that whole thing of women feeling that they've got invisible. It's amazing the conversation suddenly that lots of 50-year-old high-profile women are having that just discovered the menopause. In my case, it was obviously a long time ago, and I was like, well, what's the big deal? It's it becomes. Our brains work easier. Certainly our hormones get more balanced. We don't have those monthly ups and downs, and we are still visible.
Well, and also in the Native American tribes, that's why they say 52, because you've passed your menopause, you don't have the distraction you had as a woman maybe before, just different distractions, and you are much more focused to hold that position of power as an elder.
Absolutely. I was 52 at that. Yeah. But, I mean, absolutely. It's a time of absolute celebration. I'm concerned.
You were telling me about a question that came in. Kate, do butt in if there are more questions.
I just wanted to say that there was lots of laughter in response to that menopause. There's a lot of women here clapping and saying thank you.
Lynne, you were saying that someone asked you that if women work together, wouldn't that, if we bring that through heavily, wouldn't that polarize the gender difference even further by having women in?
I was asked that on a panel yesterday when I was speaking about it, and my answer to that is that women need a safe space where they can share their stories with other women. And I have done so many groups of women over the years, and if one man is even in the room, there is a tendency, a lot of from certain women, they won't open up. Of course they won't, or they go into a different energy. So we need our space to share and feel safe. But equally, I think it's incredibly important for men to have their space, because it's also a huge change for men, particularly young men. And they need their mentors. They need the senior men, the male wisdom keepers, to really be there for them. So I think it's just as important for men to have their space, for women to have their space, as we do in tribal, as we did in the tribal way. And then we come together. We come together and we share in a safe space. But for women particularly, because of this lack of self-esteem, this lack of wanting to be seen, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too thin, I'm too fat, I'm too uneducated, and whatever it may be, these constant voices that women have in their brains holding them back, these self-limiting beliefs. We have to get over those, and we have to do that, I believe, together. And then we can sort of understand that it's fine to be who we are. We are all beautiful, inside, outside, whatever the society's norms. There is no society's norms. We are all beautiful beings and children of the goddess.
I totally support your vision, as you said in the film, that you want to see, what was it, a circle of, what did you say, circle of elders.
Men and women.
Really, really important now. I've never understood why our government doesn't, like Don Alejandro, who's the head of the Mayan elders, he is also a part of the Guatemalan government. It's so important to have our spiritual leaders within government, and doctors and scientists. I don't know why we don't do it. Some countries do.
I don't know. I mean, it's this, certainly in this government, because I just did catch a minute of the news conference today, and if I don't want to look at middle-aged white men in suits, or even middle-aged white men and women in suits, who stand there representing and making decisions on our behalf. Where's their wisdom? Where's their wisdom?
Yeah, I agree. That has to change. That really has to change. I look forward to seeing where that one goes.
Yeah.
And how do we support women to stand up in their power? What would you say to women? I mean, you said it before about, now's the time if ever you're going to do it, but let's push that message home again.
Well, we need women role models. We need more women prepared to be seen and to stand up, and to stand and be role models in a very different way, without the need for ego or acclaim or status that was asked before, but just to be there in service. That's what we need, is more role models and more cross-generational support, I think in some ways, funnily enough, the millenniums and the baby boomers have got more in common. I think the young generations of men and women that are coming through in their 20s and early 30s are very, very different and very much more similar to our generation. You know, they're doing yoga, they're very community tribal based. You know, they're not drinking really, they're eating well. A lot of them are vegans and vegetarians.
Amazing.
It's very, very different younger generation, and I applaud and love that. So I think that and the young women are so confident. They are very, and playful. I mean, you see, it's part of the festival culture. I think that's one of the saddest things we've got this year is we've lost our. Interesting to see they're now going online into the wilds now online this weekend. Doing the workshop there, our friend Hugh. So
and the lovely did you say medicine? The medicine group, the medicine festival.
Oh, is that all?
They're putting out online now, which is great.
Fantastic. I mean, I don't think any of us want to sit in front of a screen all day. I mean, I think we've really got to be careful on that one. But the fact that we can do so many good things online, I'm now using my big screen computer, which I never usually use, and I can connect with so many people in so many different ways, and it's wonderful. So festivals online, DJs online, live music online. You know, like I said earlier, all those classes we can do, workshops, retreats, my retreats. It's amazing.
Just coming back to the children in our last sort of 5-10 minutes. But I want to talk about the change makers as well, because I do understand that if we fight something, we're enhancing it. We're, amplifying that fight energy. But we were threatened here several years ago, 5-6 years ago, Kate, with fracking. About
I was there. I was there with Vanessa.
5 miles
demonstrating
as the crow flies, and it affected our water in our local, our local aquifer and our local reservoir. And we were all out there protesting. But what really took my breath away were the young kids who I kind of judged, I have to be honest. When I first went down there, I hadn't been around activists, and they were rowdy and they were raw and raunchy. But those kids, I have such amazing respect for. I have to say, every one of you, I love you, because they had the courage to walk every day in front of those trucks and slow the progress down so that it was costing them money. And in the end, they had to give up. And then they went to other sites where there was fracking. And we're in the place we are with it now. It's not a very popular topic anymore. You know, it was those change makers who made that happen. And it is important to stand up. But we have to.
I come from the Greenham Common generation.
Yeah.
So, you know, the biggest women-only protest to stop nuclear weapons on this soil. And I was there with Catherine Hamlet. And the women there, well, I wasn't there very long. I wish I'd been there longer. But the women who were there and held that space, they were school teachers and housewives and care workers and or social workers and just, women, the unseen women. And they were there and they were putting knitting wool into the barbed wire and standing up in a completely peaceful perspective. I said to them when I got there, why are there no men? And they said, well, we started this camp with men, and the men would go start fighting the police. So we had to ask them to leave. So the women were there in non-conflict protest, and it was so powerful. And I love what Extinction Rebellion did as well. I mean, the fact that they brought music and joy and drama and theatre into their protest.
And we did that with the fracking as well. That's the answer, is to bring art and creativity into it, not anger. We had a meditation tent. Do you remember? Every morning, every evening, we would all chant and pray, and it wasn't violent. There's only one side of the road that was violent, and it wasn't the protectors.
I think we have seen protest as a very important message. Again, I think we're going to see that change. That's another aspect. I don't think we're going to see that as it was. I think Extinction Rebellion did an incredible job.
I do too.
And a lot of that will go online, but I think that the awareness they brought about climate change was crucial. But I could see even that is going to shift.
Yeah. It's going to keep shifting and changing, but I have great hope. I think I want to start rounding this up, say I have incredible hope for what is to come. I mean, Adama sort of pointed towards that, and I'm hearing it more and more, these little murmurs of it's going to be tough, might be tough for a couple of years, but what's coming is going to be beautiful. And that's because of all the things that we've discussed here.
I agree. I feel so positive about the future. I feel so positive about the present. And I feel that, yes, it's not going to be easy. Change is never easy. Transformation is always challenging. But with enough of us consciously vibrating and dreaming in this new world, we will manifest it. We will manifest it.
Yeah. So there's one last thing that Caroline Carey, one of our dear sisters that we all know, she's a shamanic weaver and an author and a great dancer. And in the film, she says, there is a saying to dream ourselves awake. And as we dream, we find the visions to dream ourselves into a much more awakened state of being. We can dream a whole new world. We have the power to do that. And it's not just to visualize and to see what we want, but to be the vision.
Beautiful from Caroline. And I agree, absolutely. We started off saying this. You started saying this when we started this conversation. We are the dream. We become the dream. We will make the dream real. And it is real. It's already started.
Yeah.
We're living it.
We are living it. We are living it. And so are thousands of others. And it's
so that's the big realization for everyone watching is it has started. We are living it. And we are going to carry it through. It's really exciting. I've loved this conversation.
Me too. I mean, I'm just so blessed that I'm here and enjoying. I lost a lot of friends along the way. Gabrielle Roth, Anita Roddick, Sue Lloyd-Roberts, women that were also leaders and transformers of society. And they're not here, but there are enough of us that are here, and it is our time. If not now, then.
I just want to say thank you to you, Lynne, because you called me a trailblazer, but whether we call it a wave maker or a trailblazer, or you are it, all of it. And your work has been incredibly transformative in the society we're living in. You've made huge changes, so very grateful.
Wow.
Would you like to lead us out, Lynne? Katie, are we all done? Would you like to lead us out with you're a beautiful Buddhist, and maybe lead us out with a Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.
Yes. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. I love everything you do with the Time of the Sixth Sun. Huge fan. And I know how much hard work you have done for so many years to bring this. And again, it's about timing. It's so beautiful. It is Time of the Sixth Sun, and that time is now. So thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you for your support, Kate, as well. So
without Teo, that none of this would have happened.
Yes, it's the balance of the male and the female together.
He's just put some of your links up below, so people can find.
Please come and join me. Any of you who are out there, come to my retreats. Come on my Facebook group. I'm all over social media. So as you say, I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo every day. I believe that it's for me. I've done it on and off for 40 years. It accelerates and enhances my intention. So I asked if I could finish tonight with 3 Nam Myoho Renge Kyos. I devote myself to the mystic law of the universe through, of cause and effect, through vibration. I change my karma through vibration. So I'll do that, and then 3 breaths, and I'll say.
Lovely. And maybe we can just slip in there that my mother passed 2 days ago, bless her, but it's for all mothers. It's beautiful that she passed. It's absolutely beautiful, and to see that that's a wonderful thing too. That we pass on and go on this wheel of life. So over to you.
Yes, I love all our mothers.
We're going to have you back.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to ring the bell very loudly.
Very tinkle.
No, I can't do it at all. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. take 3 breaths. We put our breath in and we send it out with love to the world. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Blessings. I guess we wait for Teo to end the meeting, or we just leave the studio.